Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Sterling Perkins, Director of Solutions Consulting here at Ridgeline. At Ridgeline, we work with advisory firms across the industry, from established RIAs to teams that are actively thinking about the next chapter of what their business may look like. One theme comes up constantly, which is advisors are rethinking how they serve clients, how they scale, and whether independence really offers a real opportunity to build something better. Now, this conversation, to be very clear, isn't telling advisors where they should work or advocating for one plan over the other. Instead, we work with firms across the industry. So our goal is really to help investment managers build better businesses, deliver exceptional client experiences. Today, we're exploring one part of that industry through the perspective of someone who has successfully built an independent firm. And that's exactly what we're going to spend time talking about today. Chris Poch has spent more than 4 decades in the wealth management industry, building and leading businesses within Smith Barney, Citigroup, Bessemer Trust, and Morgan Stanley before founding Promethium Advisors, where he is today. He's advised ultra high net worth families, helped shape businesses at some of the industry's most respected institutions, and has built a reputation for helping advisors think differently about long-term success. On top of that, as if the accolades weren't long enough, he's also a best-selling author of a new book, Going Independent: A Practitioner's Guide to Launching Your Advisory Firm, which was released brilliantly on July 4th, Independence Day. It was a comprehensive guide for advisors who are looking to start their own advisory firm. On top of that, he's also authored Managing Your Wealth, which is a trusted resource for affluent families, and Money and Meaning, which challenges advisors to think beyond portfolios and focus on purpose, stewardship, and the lasting impact they have on clients' lives. Chris, thank you so much for your time and thank you for being here.
Sterling, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the independence conversation, you've had a front row seat to this industry for, as we said, over 4 decades. What feels fundamentally different than when you joined the wealth management industry, back when you started?
Yeah, the wealth management industry has always been about serving families and helping them accomplish their goals, whether it's a combination of tax, trust, philanthropy, family, and investments. But what's changed recently or over the last several years is the ability for smaller firms like ours to use the cutting edge tools and technology to deliver very high level, sophisticated service for wealthier clients. It's a brand new paradigm because of the tools and technologies that allow us to basically be as big as some of the larger firms in the world and provide these aspects that these clients really want.
Right. And now that you've described it kind of at the firm level, what I would love to do is take it down to the advisor level for a few minutes. So, as we think about the advisor level, why do you think so many experienced advisors are seriously considering going independent right now as this shift is changing?
Yeah, back in the day, somebody would have a big production year, be unhappy with where they were, the office or what have you, and they'd go cut a deal with whomever, take a check, and then pay it off over time. And when the deals were 5 or 7 years, that was okay, but now the deals are 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 years. And the reality is you end up being, in a different environment, but the situation probably hasn't changed that much. If you're going to take this long-term kind of commitment, I think more and more people are looking at becoming independent because, as I said, it's really a lot easier today to deliver a very sophisticated, high-level client experience. So I think more and more people are out there, the platforms that are out there, the tools are out there, whether you go fully independent as I did, or you sign on to a platform that does a lot of the things for you. I just think it's a lot easier today to really deliver that sophisticated client experience that was more difficult in the past.
And that's a great segue. Maybe as you think about what used to happen, there are a lot of misconceptions around going independent, and technology is absolutely one that we're going to touch on today. But outside of that, for advisors who are thinking about making the move, what would you say is the biggest misconception out there today?
The biggest misconception, I think, of course, everybody's individual, is that it's so hard to do. Secondly, that your clients won't join you. Third, you won't have access to research or investment products, sophisticated things like alternatives, et cetera. And then finally, you can't grow your business. So I think those were common misconceptions, and maybe they were actually real in many cases. But what we found, and after we looked at this for more than a year before we decided to go forward, was that each one of these things are true except for you can work around it and you can make it work for you. So as we wanted to create a very high level white glove experience for our clients, we found that all of these things were available. All of the research, all of the tools, all of the products, they're all available. And, whether or not you grow your business, if you could grow your business independently before without help of getting leads fed to you from the firm, there's no reason why you can't do the same thing. So the misconceptions is it's too hard. And of course, that's what all large employers want people to think. But the reality is, it's not as hard as it used to be.
Yeah, great point. And when you think about why you started Promethium and what you were trying to launch, you mentioned a couple in your last answer about really trying to define and improve the client experience. But was there anything you were trying to build that you saw wasn't possible inside of a larger organization?
Yeah, I think in most cases, people, yeah, in our case, let's just be specific. We wanted to create the client experience for my friends and family, and obviously people that are like us. And so we didn't need to have IPOs. We didn't need to write corporate investment banking, clients. We didn't need to serve sovereign wealth funds. But what we needed was the ability to really go deep into the client niche that we had. And so as we built out our service, we looked for out of the hundreds of different tech providers and service providers, we looked for the people that offered a very sophisticated approach and allowed us to do it in an integrated way, which made it easier, faster, and better for us. And so, what we're doing now is instead of spending a lot of time taking information from one system to another system, migrating the data, reformatting it, and then coming out with, a highly customized approach, that we could only do it for a few people, we ended up we're doing it for more people. We're doing it for all of our clients, and we're doing it much more efficiently. So it adds more satisfaction to our own employees, but it also creates a better experience for clients. And this all by itself allows us a little bit more time in the day so that in those instances we can do a little bit more and the client business development ends up taking care of itself.
Love that. It's we've had many conversations recently about this, and every single time it rings true that it's an important distinction that I've heard from you. It's not that independence was the goal, but it's really that it was the starting point. It was the opportunity to build a firm that's truly aligned to you and the way you serve clients, designing the client experience from, a clean sheet of paper and the way that you would want to be treated as a client. And so maybe let's start to go there, right? Shifting the conversation to when you look at the best firms in the industry, what do you think they do differently?
Yeah, I think the best firms in industry have always been very specific and intentional. They know who they are, they know what their skill sets are, they know what their core capabilities are, and then they look for clients that really need that, and they focus on that. And some companies, as they get bigger and bigger over the decades, they end up doing more and more and more. But it doesn't mean that what they're doing more of is better. And when they spread it out, and maybe you have a new set of management and they want to go in a different direction, you end up having a large, supermarket type of approach where everybody does good enough and providing a product on the shelf is fine, whether or not it's of high quality or whatever. So the companies that do a really great job, and you can think about them. I mean, we all know what the premier names are. They've been doing the same kinds of things for decades, and they do it very, very well. And so they keep their standards high, they keep their focus narrow. All of the other things may end up being an ancillary part of the business, but that's what we want to do. We want to be very focused on our ultra high net worth clients and deliver a very specific client experience. And I think that's what the best firms in the industry do.
Absolutely. And along with those names and the designed client experience, it's all about creating longevity and trust. And as you look at your clients, these high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, you also need to think about multi-generational relationships and the way that you consistently build an experience, not just for the clients today, but to handle the generational wealth transfer that's coming. And so when you think about what you've put in place at Promethium or how these firms have done it over time, what do you think it takes to actually build that consistency into a firm for generations of management?
Yeah, it's just no surprise you think about, what's the end game, right? So if you're managing relationships, families of substantial and complex assets that are multi-generational, you want to be able to say the end game of this is not to have the highest rate of return in a given period. The end game of this is to enable the family to ensure that the assets have their highest and best use. And assets are not the goal, but they're a tool to accomplish personal goals. So if you think about how do we want these assets, these family reputation, the legacy, our name to have a positive impact on our community and maybe on society if there's enough money, how do we build this into the system? When you're focused on that and you can communicate it to your clients, they sort of get it. And these are all things that are fundamental to building out this relationship. And when you spend all of your time towards that goal, you don't get distracted and you don't have to recreate the wheel trying to put this product together with that product and this report with that report and rewriting and then having it, submit through compliance and then have them kick it out. So when you start with the end in mind and you have systems and tools that enable you to do it, typically people see it and it works out pretty well.
Absolutely. One of the tools that I've heard you speak about in our past conversations was the role of the senior strategic advisor, right? It's a role that you've said is critical to the way that you think about your business. And so what does that mean to you? What does a strategic advisor mean? What does that look like in practice? And why is that distinction so important in the way that you think about servicing your clients?
Yeah, the senior strategic advisor is typically the person who basically coordinates the communication among all of the people and the constituents and the advisors for the family. So instead of requiring the point of contact or the matriarch or patriarch being the general contractor of all of the stuff that's going on in their lives, the senior strategic advisor is one of the strategic advisors who knows a little bit about pretty much everything, tax, trust, risk, law, governance, philanthropy, and can keep everybody communicating in the loop, and making sure that things that need to get done. So I think that's a critical role, and I think most people try to play that in their own relationship. As the families get larger and more complex, the knowledge among over different disciplines is required to be elevated in order to actually be that person. But when you can have this conversation with the person who's in charge of the family's fortune, they can see right away that this is somebody who understands what to do, how to do it, and can get it done.
Yeah, so critical. When I was an advisor at Baird, one of my mentors always talked about it's not even just the fortune, it's the fact that this is a combination of every decision that that family has made over their entire lifetime. And you have to be the steward of all of those financial decisions that have been made, as well as the entire future of their family's financial decisions. And so, a strategic advisor to all of those makes a ton of sense to me. And as you think about, starting your firm, you had the opportunity to do it from a blank slate. What would you advise others that are looking at doing the same thing? What would you tell them to focus on first? What would you tell them to avoid because it creates unnecessary complexity later?
Yeah, first of all, you want to build a firm that you would want all of your money to be managed by, right? So you've got to walk the talk. We decided very early on that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that we had a firm that would service people like me and, like my friends and my family, which means very picky, very discerning. We want high levels, high standards, excellent across all disciplines. But so have a plan, know where you're going to go. Then with this white sheet, you write out all of the things that are going to be required to get you there. And then the tools and the training and the time that it'll take, which is significant. The second thing is you have to hire great people. It's hard, it's easy to say, hard to do, and you won't always do that all the time, but make sure you hire the right people. And then you have to have patience in order to see that it gets done. Getting the technology, the tools, all of those types of things in place will be a very, very important element of enabling you to actually deliver on what you want to do. So those are the three things I'd start with.
Wonderful transition there as we think about Ridgeline and the role of technology in firms starting out. One thing that I keep hearing from you, though, is that this isn't happening by accident. You can have great advisors, but you have to have the right foundation, and you have to consistently put technology in the hands of those advisors because it's more than just software. It's what really allows firms to make promises and keep those promises to the clients day in and day out. And so transitioning a bit into the technology foundation, not only of Promethium, but firms that are looking to go independent. One of the things that we're constantly hearing is that firms rarely see you start this conversation by thinking they need new technology or new software. They talk about wanting to spend more time with clients. They talk about how their teams work and building businesses that are ready for them 5 or 10 years from that moment. But the reality is that technology is what you're going to create a strong foundation. Not having inherited systems, no mandated platforms. It's the first opportunity that they have to start with a technology that they feel fits the service level they're looking for. And so, having seen it from both sides, right? You've seen it within the largest firms, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, and now building your own firm. At what point did you realize that technology wasn't just supporting the client experience, but truly helping enable it along the way?
Yeah, well, first of all, most of us think we know a fair amount about technology, but we've never seen how the sausage factory works. When I went from, the field up to New York and saw how all of the, decades worth of mergers were actually, kind of glued together, it was fascinating, it was impressive, and it was terrifying. Then going out on your own, it's quite frankly, it can be overwhelming unless you're very systematic about it. So I, recommend people talk to advisors who are independent today that are at platforms, and then others who are independent, and try to understand, the pros and cons. But the thing that there are a number of, well-known, let's say, core technology providers that have, the portfolio management accounting, the billing, the reporting, the client portal, all of those sorts of things that go into a compliance. And they're great. Most of them have been, built over the decades, and they're really good providers through a series of acquisitions and plugins. What you find out over time is all of those has their limitations. What we found out in the platforms that we wanted to do something, but it required 6 clicks, and I sort of my patience got exhausted after 4 or 5. And so figuring out exactly how you're going to use a given technology. And then I can't emphasize enough to do the training to make sure it has the training so you actually see what it's like. So there's much more to it, but I'll just put a pause there.
Oh, great points. And as you think about those technology decisions, what technology decisions would you say they need to get right from day one? You mentioned a couple, right? CRM, reporting, billing, but what does that look like as you think about the most important to decide on?
Yeah, each practice, each firm is a little different depending upon who they serve, whether it's the 401(k) rollover or whether it's the, independent endowment with third-party managed money. But after the custodian, and sometimes that's at the choice of the larger clients or preferences, it's clearly the portfolio management system, or what I call the portfolio management system. And that's the heart that, includes all of the, how you manage your money, and then it includes a CRM. But in addition to that, it's performance reporting, it's reporting on how you're running the business, it's reconciliation, it's billing and compliance, and how do all of these things wrap together. So getting that system down is really, really important. There's the running of the business, which is outside of that, and that's another kind of challenge that faces small business people like myself. But the key element is getting this portfolio management system and having it really interact in an efficient way is that's quite frankly, that's what makes Ridgeline special.
We appreciate that. As you think about the decision to go with Ridgeline and elevating the experience for your clients, what is that decision like, and what did that make possible that maybe wasn't possible before?
Well, I early on knew that I needed to do something different, and I've been in touch with Ridgeline for a long time, and I measured, twice, and then I measured a third time, and I measured a fourth time, and then I went out to base camp. But the thing that I really had to admit to myself was I didn't really know what I needed or what I wanted. I mean, that was an embarrassing admission because I'd have a checklist list of, 50 things, and I thought I was smart, and then I realized there's 150 things that I forgot to consider. And literally, I created this 210-point checklist of things you should consider. So, the process that I followed was figured out, listen, and then originally did a very good job introducing people like myself who A was small, but a business person who wanted to meet clients, prospective clients, similar clients, and learning what they did and why they did it and how they did it. Getting a feel for what the client experience would be like was very important. The last thing that I'll just say, which maybe is a unique feature, maybe not, but every firm gets better at its own pace. And some of the larger incumbents, they're so big that they get better at a very slow rate. Other firms who are laser focused on getting better faster are the ones that you really want to be associated with. And I think Ridgeline fits that bill.
Right. Thank you so much. And as you think about the firms that are going to lead this industry over the next decade, is their advantage going to come from technology, better investment ideas, or maybe even just building better businesses? What's your take?
Yeah, so you got the big firms that are going to be they're going to be successful, whether or not it's at a rapid pace or not, because they do everything for everybody all the time. And so there's going to be that business model. Then the better firms within that are, they're going to focus on the investment banking, the clients where they make their money on the underwriting, the trading, serving the private equity firms and distribution channels, et cetera. So they're going to do fine, as long as they focus on that. The wealth management firms, they're going to do fine as long as they focus on their client. So as I think about in this space, if you're an independent investment advisor or wealth advisor, I think what you need to do is you can't rely on investment returns because obviously that's fleeting and most of us aren't that good. But what really need to do is focus on delivering a superior client experience and what that means and being able to do it over your entire book of business better, faster, and cheaper. And then, of course, running your business more efficiently. The tools that are out there either allow you to do what you need to do or enable you to do what you need to do better and faster. And so I would say serve your client first. That's the most important thing. Run your business better. That's the second most important thing. And then if you can run money well, good for you.
Yeah, that's the golden piece at the end, right? Uh, appreciate that insight. And thank you for taking the time to go through technology and what you see as the better business opportunities here. I think the right technology is really creating the foundation for independence and making it sustainable. It's what allows advisors to spend more time doing what they can do, which is building relationships, providing judgment, guiding clients through decisions that matter most. And it's also one of the most consequential decisions an advisor can make when they're jumping out to their own, build their own firm. So certainly appreciate you choosing Ridgeline as you've done that. Looking ahead to kind of the end of this conversation, would love to get your perspective on where you think the profession is headed. So we've spent a lot of time looking back. Would love to kind of look forward. What do you think is coming in the next 3 to 5 years and that will continue to separate firms that thrive from the ones that are just kind of keeping up? I know you touched on it a bit on what they should focus on, but what do you think the big building blocks are that are going to separate firms?
So, um, let's just talk about registered investment advisors in the wealth management industry. There are going to be a lot of people that go independent to be lifestyle advisors, where they go, maybe they make a little bit more money, they don't work as long or as hard, and that's fine. Um, I don't know that that's the people that are watching this or who want to watch this. The people that really, if you want to if you're going to work hard and really want to deliver a superior client experience and really want to get things right and have a very high level standard, I think you really need to know where's the puck going to go, and you need to get the right technology. And if you're willing to work hard and you're going to stick with it for 5 or 7 years, I think there's really a hockey stick upside. There's really a J curve opportunity for people that do a good job consistently over time, make promises, keep promises, and build good relationships, tell the truth. And I think that you can really get the snowball effect that Warren Buffett, has talked about or has been talked about him, where the differences don't appear to be that great in years 3, 4, 5. You get out to 7, 9, 10. If you have a 10-year horizon, I think that if you build a good business on a good platform with a partner that enables you to do things better, faster, and cheaper, the success that you might be able to have will be in the order of tens of billions of dollars under management, making tens of millions of dollars in personal income after all your expenses. I think there really is now the ability for the average, Jane and Joe on the street who want to work hard to have big businesses if that's what you want. I don't think it was really that easy for most people to do before. I think it's much easier today if you want to do it, if you're willing to put in the time, and if you pick the right the right technology partners.
Great point. Yeah, it's just maybe to go a little bit deeper on that as you think about those who are thinking about making the switch, right? You've written this incredible book that just came out, and it's a fantastic read for anyone interested in making the transition. But without giving too much of it away, what would you say is the single most important thing to get right as they're thinking about going out independent, trying to build that big business you were just talking about?
Yeah, so half the advisors out there today work at large established firms. That's terrific, particularly if you're newer in the business and you don't have a lot of industry knowledge. If you're more experienced in the business and you have talent and ambition, I think the opportunity is great. So there's two ways you can go. You can go and join a platform firm which has custody and trading and research and already has the product intros and the compliance and all the systems all built in. You get a very elevated payout ratio, but it's all kind of funneled. The whole back office, if you will, is solved for you. So that's one way to go. It's a good way to go. Many of my friends have gone that way. On the other hand, then if you want to have that J-stick opportunity the way I do, and I think we'll actually enjoy eventually, and you want full control over all of the tools, who you want as your partners for compliance, for technology, and you don't necessarily want to join a platform that has good internal tools, but not the best internal tools. I think that's something that's really, really important. And yeah, I just think the opportunity is so bright and available for people who want to do great things for their clients, have high standards, and want to pursue niches in ways that maybe aren't exactly ideal. So you got to get your platform right. And I think that's the one big decision. Do you want somebody to do most of the stuff for you? And then you have to work within those bands, whatever they are today and however they change in the future. And then there's some of us who are very stubborn who say, other people's standards are rarely as high as my own. And I'm always going to be a striver. And if you are slightly discontent all the time, like some of us are, and always want to do better, truly independent might be the better road.
Love it. Love the insight. Last question before we get to the closing here. If you were sitting here, 5 years from now, you and I are having another conversation, what do you hope has changed about this profession in that time?
I hope that we do a better job educating clients on basic investing. I mean, it sounds silly, but I don't think we do a good job at helping people understand how to budget and save before they get to invest. We just jump right into investing. And the second thing is, I would hope that there would be more of a greater education as opposed to just product sales. There's a mass proliferation of product sales, and we'll tell you everything you need to know as long as it gets you to a yes on whatever ticket I want to write on whatever product that's was served at lunch today. I hope that we enable and encourage people to be able to do more for families. Part of it is this multidisciplinarian approach. Part of it is this senior strategic advisor that I'm talking about, but that takes a lot of time to learn all these disciplines. So in 5 years from now, I hope we're teaching the basics better, and I hope we are not as focused on product distribution as we have been in the last 5 years.
Great points. Couldn't agree more. Chris, thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation. And one thing that really stood out to me as we went through this is while we started talking about independence, we really ended up talking about something much bigger, which is what it takes to build an advisory firm that lasts, one that's built around trust, thoughtful relationships, and a client experience. Even to your last point, maybe the client experience starting before they even have the money to invest eventually, right? And so being intentional from day one is incredibly important. I also think it's important to, as a reminder for technology isn't a destination. It's the foundation that allows advisors to deliver the vision that you set out. You wanted to design a client experience from a clean sheet of paper. That's how Ridgeline took the approach of building technology. So we completely understand that. And that's what we're passionate about helping firms like Promethium in doing, delivering incredible client experiences at scale. And so thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us today. One thing I would like to mention, and let me go ahead and share my screen here. I have one last note. So, as everyone can see, we have two great items on the screen here. The first, I'm going to look at the right-hand side first. So, Chris, again, congratulations on your new book coming out that came out July 4th, Going Independent. Amazing that you're a bestseller, and would love to see you do that again here with this book. And then on the left-hand side, and also directly behind me this entire time, is Ridgeline's Base Camp. It's coming up September 14th to 17th in Carlsbad. You mentioned it throughout this conversation, Chris. Maybe just a quick blurb on your thoughts having been to base camp. What would you recommend for those that are listening?
Yeah, I honestly think it's a must for general education as to what's going on in the industry, and frankly, you will learn an awful lot about what's coming. And in some cases, there's this fear of missing out once you're there because you see what's coming and you see how good it could be. The second thing is you get to meet, 20% of the people there are the Ridgeline people and the various, product support people that help make the Ridgeline, effort really good. But the other 80% are existing clients, clients who have signed up but haven't started, and then prospective clients. And you sit all down at the same table at every single thing, and you say, "What do you like? What do you dislike? What's your business?" And you really learn why people are doing what they're doing. It was an enormously positive impact for me. I learned an awful lot. And quite frankly, right after the last base camp, we decided to move forward because I think it was a no-brainer.
Love to hear that. You heard it here, folks. Come to base camp. We would love to see you. And Chris, thank you so much for the time. Really enjoyed the conversation and just getting to know you over the years that we've been chatting here. So thank you so much for the time, and really appreciate you spending time with us today. Thank you all.
Sterling, thanks so much.